I keep seeing a man in my dreams, but now he's come to life. Here you are. I've been waiting for you. He whispered, his voice smooth and soft as his eyes locked onto mine. What do you mean? I asked, staring at him, messy brown hair, sharp green eyes, and a look so intense it sent a shiver through me. We stood on a moonlit terrace overlooking the ocean, everything feeling dreamlike. You'll find out soon, he murmured, his breath warm near my ear. Slowly he leaned in. My heart pounded as the space between us vanished. When our lips met, it was gentle and full of emotion, like a silent promise. The kiss was tender, his lips brushing against mine with a care that made me feel both safe and electrified. When he finally pulled back, our foreheads touched. I opened my eyes to find him smiling, a warmth in his gaze that made my chest ache in the best way. We'll meet again, Colton, he said softly.
Wait,
I tried to hold on to him, to the moment, but then I woke up, gasping for air. The dream had felt too real, leaving me breathless. I blinked into the darkness, trying to calm myself down. Why had I dreamed something so romantic? My mind went to the steamy stories I'd been reading lately. Ugh, those must have triggered it. That's it, I'm done with those novels, I muttered, pinching myself and groaning. I turned to check the time, 2 a.m. Great, with classes in the morning, I couldn't afford to lose sleep. I flopped back onto my bed, determined to fall asleep. But no matter what, I couldn't stop thinking about him. The guy from my dream. His green eyes, his touch, that kiss. It all lingered, making it impossible to rest. Next morning, I rushed to get ready for college, cursing myself for staying up late. The vivid dream and restless thoughts left me drained, but I couldn't afford to slack off. Getting into this college had been tough, and I couldn't risk missing a class. I barely made it to the classroom before the door closed. My heart raced as I slipped into my seat, trying to catch my breath. Despite my efforts to focus, my head felt foggy, and my eyelids grew heavy. I nearly nodded off more than once.
Hey Colton, you okay? You look exhausted,
my friend Autumn whispered. Yeah, just didn't sleep well, I mumbled, rubbing my eyes.
Oh really?
What were you doing? She teased, a smirk on her face. Her question caught me off guard, and the memory of last night's dream flashed in my mind. The sweet, passionate kiss made my cheeks warm. I could almost feel it again, the way the stranger held me. I shook my head, forcing the thoughts away. It was just a dream. It's not like I would see it again. That night, I went to bed early, determined to get some real sleep. But as soon as I drifted off, the dream began. I stood in a golden meadow at sunset, everything peaceful. Before I even saw him, I felt him, like he belonged here with me. He walked toward me, sunlight glinting off his sharp green eyes, making them seem impossibly bright. I knew I'd find you here, he said, voice low and smooth. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in forever. Have you been looking for me? Always, he replied, his eyes locking on mine, his expression serious yet soft. We stopped at the top of a hill, the sun casting him in a warm glow. He reached out, brushing his fingers along my cheek, sending a delicious shiver down my spine. You don't know how much I've wanted this, he murmured. Wanted what? I whispered, barely breathing. This, he said, right before his lips captured mine. The kiss was slow, deep, and searing, like he was savoring every second. His hand slid down to my waist, pulling me closer. I gripped his Autumn sighed, her playful tone softening. I feel bad for you. If only those dreams could magically disappear. Maybe I should just stop sleeping altogether, I muttered under my breath. A few days later, my head ached as I prepared for bed, exhausted but dreading the night ahead. Lately, sleep had been a struggle because of the vivid dreams that refused to leave me alone. No matter what I tried, nothing seemed to work, and these dreams kept messing with my mind all day, making it hard to focus on college. I got into bed, nervous about another intense dream. Maybe tonight would be different. Do you know what you're doing to me? He whispered, his lips brushing my ears as his fingers touched my waist. I shivered, his touch sparking a heat that spread through me. His fingers traced my waist slowly, and I didn't pull away. Instead, I leaned into him. I can feel you tense, he said in a calm voice. Relax. His lips moved to my neck, gentle at first, then more intense as his hands explored my body, making every touch feel more electric. I can feel him against me, his movements lighting up every nerve. Without thinking, I tangled my fingers in his hair, pulling him closer, a soft groan escaping as I pressed my cheek to his ear. Then his lips crushed into mine with an urgency that stole my breath. It was wild, full of emotion, and I responded with the same hunger, each kiss more desperate than the last. We moved together, our chemistry undeniable. In that moment, it felt like nothing else mattered. Just us, building something unspoken yet powerful. I woke up gasping, my heart racing as I clutched my chest. The dream had left me shaken, drenched in sweat. Each night, the dreams grew more vivid and intense, and I couldn't take it anymore. There was only one way to stop it. I was going to stop sleeping altogether. 2 days later, I trudged through the college campus completely drained. My hair was a mess, and the dark circles under my eyes felt like bruises from a fight I was losing. It was all because I had sworn off sleep. Staying awake was excruciating. I relied on endless cups of caffeine and mindless movie marathons to keep my eyelids from shutting. I knew it was taking a serious toll on my health, but anything felt better than enduring those relentless dreams. As I walked toward my classroom, lost in thought, I froze. There he was. A tall, striking man with messy brown hair and piercing green eyes. My heart skipped a beat. It was him, the man from my dreams. I stood rooted to the ground, gaping as he strode confidently past me, disappearing into the crowd. My mind raced. Was I hallucinating? I pinched myself, but the sharp sting told me I wasn't dreaming. What am I doing? I muttered, snapping out of my daze. I had to go after him, to find out who he was and why he was suddenly here, in my college. I took off in the direction he'd gone, my heart pounding in my chest. But no matter how much I searched, scanning every corner and every face, he was nowhere to be found. It was as though he had vanished into thin air. A few hours later, I was heading back to class, feeling defeated. Maybe I had imagined it all, just a trick of my tired mind. But then I saw him again. He was leaning against the wall, talking to someone. My heart skipped. This was my chance. I walked over, determined not to let him slip away. Hey, I called out, my voice louder than I expected. He glanced up, holding up a hand to the other person. Excuse me, he said before turning to me. Yes, do you need something? His green eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, I froze. Panicking, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. I think you dropped this, I said, holding out a random pen. He looked at it, then back at me, chuckling softly. I don't think that's mine. His voice was just as smooth and confident as in my dreams, making my heart race. Oh, sorry, I mumbled, my cheeks heating. No need to apologize, he smiled, his grin just as captivating as I remembered. Hope you find the owner. He turned away, leaving me standing there, clutching the pen like it was my lifeline. I nodded weakly, though he wasn't looking, and walked off, dejected. My plan had failed, but I couldn't shake the feeling. He was the man from my dreams, no doubt about it. Next day, I walked into my classroom today feeling refreshed for the first time in weeks. I'd finally managed to sleep through the night, and, most importantly, there were no haunting dreams. Was it because I'd seen the man from my dreams in real life? I couldn't be sure, but the thought left me in an unusually good mood. Later, while strolling through campus, I saw him again, sitting on a bench, engrossed in a book, completely oblivious to the world around him. He looked so peaceful that I couldn't resist. Summoning my courage, I walked up to him. "Hey there," I said softly. Startled at first, his expression quickly softened into recognition. "It's you." "Yeah, you remember me?" I asked, surprised. "Of course. You were searching for that pen's owner yesterday, even though it looked suspiciously like yours." He grinned. "So what's your excuse this time?" Blushing, I decided to be a little more honest. "No excuses. You seem kind of familiar to me, and I wanted to talk to you." His grin softened and he gestured to the seat beside him. "To be honest, you seem kind of familiar to me too." I froze, caught off guard. Hesitantly, I sat down. "I'm Colton Black. And you are?" I asked, extending my hand. "Levi." "Levi Turner," he said smoothly, shaking my hand. The name jolted me. It rang a bell deep in my mind, but I couldn't immediately place it. Curiosity bubbled up. "So, are you new to the city?" "Kind of. I used to live here a long time ago, but then I moved away. I'm back now." "Wait," I said carefully. "Did you go to West Pine Middle School?" Levi's eyes narrowed slightly as if trying to recall. Yes, but how did you know?" I stared at him, studying his features. The Levi Turner I remembered was a scrawny boy with oversized glasses, messy blonde hair, and a stack of books everywhere he went. But it had to be him. "Are you really Levi Turner from West Pine Middle School? The one with big glasses and blonde hair?" I asked hesitantly. His eyes widened in shock. "How do you know so much about me?" "Wait. Are you that Colton? My childhood friend?" I nodded vigorously. "Yes, it's me." Levi stepped forward and pulled me into a tight hug. "Wow, I can't believe it's you. I thought we'd never meet again." "You're the one who disappeared," I laughed. "But look at you. You're so different now." Levi chuckled, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, a lot changed as I grew up. My blonde hair darkened to brown over the years. And those huge glasses? I always hated them. I worked hard to fix my vision and now only need reading glasses occasionally." He grinned sheepishly before adding, "I guess I also lost my nerd phase after I got into sports in high school." "Wow, you definitely changed for the better," I said, genuinely impressed. Levi chuckled, his grin widening. "Well, I think you look a bit different too." "Really? In a good or a bad way?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual, though my curiosity was piqued. He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a soft murmur. "Different in a good way." Heat rose to my cheeks at his words, and I quickly averted my gaze, scrambling for a change of topic. "So, remember the old days? Back in middle school?" Levi's grin softened into something more nostalgic. "Of course. We were inseparable back then." As we reminisced our secret hideouts, inside jokes, and silly mischief, it felt like no time had passed. We laughed until our sides ached, the years of distance melting away as if they'd never existed. A few days later, Levi and I quickly rekindled our childhood friendship after that day. Though he changed a lot, he was still the same kind and sweet boy I remembered. Getting to know this new, confident version of him was exciting in its own way. But one mystery lingered. Why had I been dreaming about Levi? How did I know in my dreams exactly what he looked like now, even though we hadn't seen each other for years? And why were those dreams so romantic? The thought made me flush whenever I was around him, but I pushed it aside, focusing instead on the present. "Levi," I called, spotting him in the cafe. "Hey, Colton. Late again?" he Just thinking about stuff. Levi raised an eyebrow. About what? I hesitated, unsure how to explain the emotions swirling inside me. Nothing important, I said with a half smile, trying to brush it off. He studied me for a moment. You sure? You've been distant lately. A knot tightened in my stomach. Yeah, just college stuff. I tried to laugh, but it didn't reach my eyes. Levi fell silent, giving me a thoughtful look. All right, if you say so. The air between us grew heavier, and I quickly looked away, not wanting him to see how much his attention was making my heart race. A few days later, the campus was quiet, with a few students scattered around enjoying the afternoon. Levi and I sat on a bench near the fountain, sunlight filtering through the trees. We'd been talking more these past few days, but today felt different, as if something unspoken hung in the air. Levi leaned back, stretching his arms. Never thought I'd be back here, let alone spending my time talking like this. I smiled. Yeah, it's weird. Everything's changed, but it feels the same. He chuckled, glancing at me. You've changed too. Still sarcastic, but more relaxed? I laughed softly. That's a compliment, right? Definitely. Don't think I'd have survived middle school without you. We shared a laugh, the kind that felt easy and familiar. But there was a new closeness in the way we spoke, an energy I couldn't ignore. Each time Levi's gaze met mine, my heart raced. Noticing my silence, Levi leaned in. You okay? You've been quiet. Caught off guard by his closeness, I stammered. Yeah, just thinking. About what, he asked. I was just worried about our families finding out about our friendship. I don't want any bad blood between us, I sighed. You don't have to worry about them. I'll handle my parents, he said firmly. I nodded, though I still didn't fully understand what he meant. His eyes softened, making my chest tighten. Without a word, he brushed a stray lock of hair from my face, his touch lingering. My breath hitched, and I couldn't pull away, lost in his gaze. Then he closed the distance. His lips brushed mine, gentle at first, testing. My heart pounded as I leaned in, responding. His hand cupped my cheek, pulling me closer. When we finally pulled apart, we were breathless, faces flushed. Levi smiled softly. Guess we're not just friends anymore, huh? I nodded, still processing. Yeah, I whispered. Not just friends anymore. 5 days later. Levi and I had been growing closer over the past few days, but things felt different now. Our relationship had shifted from friends to something more, and while I couldn't deny the happiness it brought me, there was a lingering unease I couldn't shake. He was sweet, affectionate, and always around, but something about it didn't feel entirely right. I couldn't place my finger on it, but it felt like his feelings for me weren't as genuine as they seemed. Maybe it was because of our families, or maybe I was just overthinking it, but the doubt gnawed at me. Are you lost in your thoughts? Levi teased, his voice playful as he nudged me with his shoulder. Maybe, I replied, offering him a small smile, though my mind was elsewhere. There's no use being lost in your thoughts when I'm right here in front of you, he said with a grin. I raised an eyebrow, trying to keep the mood light. You're more sufferable in my thoughts, though. He laughed and playfully shouted, Hey! Before pulling me close, his finger tracing along my cheek. How about now? He asked, his eyes sparkling with affection. I chuckled, though the lightheartedness didn't quite reach me as it usually did. Definitely better. Levi, I started hesitantly, do you think our families will accept us? I mean, they have been fighting since before we were even born. You don't have to worry about it. If they don't, we'll just run away together, he said, smiling, but there was a hint of pain in his eyes. You always think of the wildest things, I chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. What if it turns out to be true, he asked seriously. I looked at him in surprise, wondering what was going through his mind. When Levi's gaze softened, and for a moment, I lost myself in the warmth of his eyes. But then something hit me. Something I couldn't ignore. His expression, though tender, lacked something crucial. It was almost as if he was playing a part, like he was acting to make me feel wanted. His eyes, though filled with warmth, didn't carry the sincerity I had once believed they did. Levi leaned in, kissing me gently. I kissed him back, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't the usual rush of emotions I'd felt before. It felt uncertain, like I wasn't sure why I was kissing him anymore. A few days later, Levi and I were still together, but my heart hadn't fully accepted it. Though I wanted to trust him, my mind wouldn't let me. I sighed, trying to shake off the unease. I needed to focus on my assignment. Walking into the library, I hoped to find books I needed when I overheard Levi's voice. As I approached, I realized he was on the phone, speaking in a low, steady tone. Yeah, I've been keeping tabs on Colton. He trusts me. I'm getting close. We'll have everything we need soon, Dad. My heart sank. Levi, I called, my voice shaking as he hung up. He looked up, quickly masking his surprise with an unreadable expression, the warmth gone. Colton, he said softly, standing up. I didn't expect you to hear that. I struggled to speak, my mind racing. The trust, the closeness. It was all a lie. I had been a pawn in whatever game he was playing. Why? I whispered. Why would you do this to me? Levi's eyes flickered with something. Guilt, but it vanished. He took a step forward, voice softening. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't plan for things to get complicated. Complicated? I said in pain. You've been using me for information, haven't you? For your family's plan? Levi winced but didn't deny it. He ran a hand through his hair, torn. I never meant to hurt you. My family pushed me into this. They needed you to trust me. I didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice? I asked, the sting of betrayal sharp. You could have told me the truth. You could have walked away, but you lied to me, played with my feelings. I turned to leave, my throat tight, but Levi's voice stopped me. Please, Colton, just let me explain. You deserve to know everything. I shook my head, the ache in my chest unbearable. I don't think I can trust you anymore, I said, even though I wasn't sure if I believed it myself. With each step away, my heart broke a little more, but I knew it was the only way to protect myself from the mess he had dragged me into. That night. I tried to sleep that night, but Levi's betrayal consumed my thoughts. How could he have used me while pretending to love me? The pain was too raw, too deep. I couldn't forgive him. I tossed and turned, the weight on my chest unbearable, until sleep finally claimed me. Even then, his presence lingered in my restless dreams. The sky was overcast, the air heavy with unease. Disoriented, I looked around until I saw him. Levi. He stood at a distance, his back turned to me, the space between us widening with every step he took. Levi! I called, my voice cracking. Levi, please! He didn't turn, walking away as if he couldn't hear me. The ground beneath me I pleaded, my voice breaking as I struggled to move forward. But the ground beneath me held me captive, pulling me back. Then, he turned. His eyes, once warm and full of life, were cold, empty, devoid of recognition. The face I knew so well was a mask of indifference, the soul behind it gone. Before I could say anything, the darkness swallowed him whole. I woke with a jolt, gasping for air, my body drenched in sweat. My chest ached as if the weight of the nightmare still pressed down on me. Disoriented, I glanced around, but the truth was inescapable. Levi was slipping away, and I had to find him before it was too late. Next day, I glanced at the hundreds of messages and missed calls from Levi. He'd worked hard to reach me, to make amends for his mistake, but I'd ignored him, making my decision without hearing his side. I dialed his number. "Levi?" I said softly. "Colton? Is that really you?" His voice sounded distant. "Let's meet at our usual cafe today," I replied. "I didn't think you'd want to see me again." "I can't wait to meet you," he said, relieved. Later I sat in the cafe, waiting. It had been a while since I'd come here, and when I arrived, the barista told me Levi visited every day without fail, leaving notes for me, hoping I'd show up. Hearing this only deepened my guilt. This was the first time I had arrived before him, but after those unsettling dreams, I needed to see if he was okay. "Colton!" Levi called out as he entered. I was taken aback. He looked worse than I thought, disheveled, with deep circles under his eyes. But when he saw me, a faint smile appeared. He pulled me into a hug. For a moment, I relaxed in his arms before pulling away. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "It's all right," I shrugged it off. "You look awful," I added. "Yeah," he smiled sadly. "You don't look so great either." I smiled back. "I know." "So Levi, explain yourself. I didn't come here for small talk." He nodded. "I'm here to tell you everything." "Why did you betray me? Our families had issues, but I thought that never affected us." Levi chuckled softly. "Maybe not for you, but my family hated our friendship. I had to hide it even in school." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, shocked. "I didn't want to burden you, but one day a teacher saw us together. He knew my family and told them the truth. That's when my parents sent me to another school. They couldn't accept me being close to you," he explained, sighing. "What happened then?" I asked. "I decided not to contact you, to protect you. The boy I liked so much," he confessed. "Wait, you liked me more than a friend?" I asked. Levi nodded. "Yes, but I never said anything. I didn't want to lose you as a friend. Then my father called and asked for a favor." "What favor? Betraying me?" I asked, hurt. "Yes, he was upset your family was ahead in the business world and wanted to take you down. I wanted to refuse, but I feared he'd hurt you. So I agreed. But being close to you brought all those feelings back." "Then why did you betray me?" I whispered. "I didn't. I never could. I got close to you to protect you." "Everything I said to my father and what you heard was a lie," Levi explained. "But I could feel you weren't sincere. Was I wrong?" I asked. "No, you weren't. I was lying, but I hated myself for it. I couldn't show my feelings because of the plan. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you," he said, his voice sincere. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" I asked. "I have been trying to reach out to you, but you always ignored me." "I've been living with guilt ever since," he replied sadly. "I'm sorry too. You made every attempt to make amends, yet I didn't listen." "I feel guilty too," I said, deciding to come clean. "I didn't chase after you because you seemed familiar. I chased you because of a dream." I told him everything, about the sensual dreams, the dark ones, and how they led me to him. He sat in shock before laughing. "You're telling me you can predict the future?" he asked, chuckling. "It's not like that," I pouted. "It's more like a premonition." "I guess I'll try to believe you," he said hesitantly. "Were those sensual dreams better than reality?" he teased. My cheeks flushed and I looked down. "Is that all you can think about?" Levi chuckled. "Adorable! Maybe we could try imitating one of those dreams." "Levi!" I exclaimed, embarrassed. He laughed again, then grew serious. "Are you ready to forgive me and give me a chance?" "I'll try my best, but you'll have to work hard to earn my trust," I said. "I'll definitely do that." "In more ways than one," he winked. I chuckled, feeling a new sense of hope. Maybe with time and effort, things could change. I was ready to give him a chance. And myself, too. Maybe one day those romantic dreams could come true. 1 month later. A month had passed since Levi and I decided to give our relationship another chance. Slowly, we fell in love all over again and finally trusted each other completely. Tonight, we were enjoying a quiet date at my place watching a movie. So why did we pick horror again? I asked, closing my eyes and moving closer to Levi. Just for moments like this, he replied, his arms around me, his face just inches from mine. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Aren't you gonna watch the movie? I asked. No, you're more interesting, he said, tracing a finger along my cheek. I gazed into his beautiful green eyes as he leaned in and kissed me slowly, deeply. My breath caught in my throat as I kissed him back, my hands threading through his hair. His kiss deepened, his hands exploring every inch of me. It felt almost like a dream, except this time, it was real. Conclusion. After graduation, Levi and I moved in together, starting our new life. He cut ties with his manipulative family, finally finding the confidence to be himself. My family, though initially hesitant about our relationship, accepted Levi once they learned he had distanced himself from his family. At first it was driven by their rivalry, but over time, as they saw him as a kind and loving person, they grew to love him as a son. Levi, in turn, was overjoyed to be part of a family that accepted him for who he was. And me? I was just grateful to be by his side, supporting him through every moment. Our future was still uncertain. We didn't know whether we'd marry or grow old together. But what mattered was that we were building our lives together, one day at a time. Each day we fell deeper in love with each other, and each day we became stronger as a couple. But we were more than just lovers. We were best friends, sharing not only moments of joy but also the challenges of life. That foundation of friendship always kept us grounded, no matter what life threw at us. We were like two puzzle pieces that fit together perfectly, and that was enough for us. The end. Question. Have you ever had a sensual dream like Colton's? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome!